Hi folks, this is Karen Lohoff. I can't tell you how much this feels to me to be my cup of tea. I was just looking at some notes and I'd kind of like done double and triple notes on the same short page, and I finally made out it begins with your decision to drive your life. And I thought, I think so often of my first attempts, my first efforts, my first opportunities to drive. I was 4 years old. You know, that's interesting. I think about that a lot and talk about that a lot and never seem to remember that I have any memories at 4. I have one memory at 3, just because it was kind of a big deal, learning I was going to have a little sister. Of course, in those days you didn't know what sex the baby would be, but it turned out she was a little sister. And at 4, my father put me in his spot in a 1.5-ton truck that the back was loaded with bales of hay. He had always had a dream. It never became totally true. Maybe maybe it did. I wasn't wise enough and I wasn't skilled enough to ask him the questions that I wish I had, and skilled enough to get an answer out of him. I think he did not either anticipate that I would have the kinds of questions that I did, or that I'm sorry, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I could be looking in the eye of the camera. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm sorry about that. I don't think he realized that I really wanted to know. When I asked a question, I really wanted to know. Actually, that still happens today. That's interesting. That happens today. That men don't really grasp that I want to know when I ask a question. And I don't know that it's all men in general, but maybe. I think it's the men that I tend to magnetize towards me for some reason. I am going to get to this story. Here we go. He would put me on his spot on the seat. Gosh, I wonder if those of you listening even realize there used to be trucks and cars and all kinds of vehicles that had a bench seat. But I'm talking about moving me over on the bench seat, the one seat in the truck, and placing my hands on the steering wheel. My feet didn't begin to come anywhere near, as I'm sure you can imagine if you know 4-year-olds at all, didn't begin to come near the brake or the clutch. He would put the truck in compound, which is what he called it. It was neutral before he did that. And then he would, I wish I could remember how he did it. He was 35 years older than me, and I was the oldest of 4 children. I'm not 35, 39. Yeah, that wouldn't have been a problem. Grab a hold of something and just leap up on top, and that's kind of what I remember, is that all at once he disappeared and he was on top. He would use his hay rake. That's not really what it was called. I think of it as a rake because I once barely missed stabbing my toes, the top of the ball of my feet, which just would have mangled the heck out of my foot. I'm really lucky that didn't occur. But anyway, he would take it upside down and hit the wooden handle against the top of the truck, and I would know then that he was up there, and I would know that with all my might, my job was to keep from letting the truck throw him off. So when we would go across ditches, and you know, you never think there are very many ditches in a field until you have to steer through them. I was to hold the wheel in such a way that the truck would not veer in such a way as to throw him off. And what a heady trip that was. For me to sit in that spot and look out the window and see what was ahead and know I was responsible for what went on, and there was a lot of tension. Ooh, yes, a lot of stress, because not only would it have been horrible for me to dislodge my father, it would have been definitely horrible when he came to rights. So I definitely wanted to do things correctly. So back to driving my life. I did a post before this one that this video is going to fit on about a middle-aged woman and maybe feeling disenfranchised, which is to feel marginalized, which is to feel a loss of power. And I know from my own personal experience that many, many, many of us have experienced that feeling, that sense in our own lives as we either lost a spouse to death or divorce, or not been married. You know, sometimes you think that's going to happen and it doesn't. And so many of us have learned that life does not necessarily turn out the way that we expect that it will. And even so, at some point, we need to come to the place where we realize we need to drive our life. That really, as many people as there are who care about us, who love us, who will find help for us, no one is going to take over and drive our life. And if in the course of coming to that realization for yourself, you realize that you need to change how you speak to yourself, and more deeply, you need to change how you speak to your subconscious, that part of your mind that runs your breathing, that runs your driving, that runs the really important stuff, and can sometimes get to where it feels like it's out of hand because you stopped training it. You stopped being aware that as you grow and as you make new decisions, as you set new parameters, that you need to keep your subconscious up to speed, because your subconscious basically runs the way that it's used to running, the way that it's been trained to run. It keeps doing the same thing. It keeps the breath going in and out, pretty much the same way. If you want to breathe differently for exercise or for anything else that you can think of, you got to do that consciously. Because unconsciously, the breathing goes on the way it always has. And that fits for everything else. I just heard someone that I work with, someone on my team, someone really extra special, share how it can benefit you if you get a power word when you talk to your subconscious. By the way, she too talks to herself. I'm sure I've talked to you about talking to myself. And really you're talking to your subconscious and you're retraining it. And in the course of doing that, it helps a whole lot if you have a power word. She uses boom. Because as she says, you don't just merely say boom like cereal in the morning or my elbow is sore. You say boom powerfully. And I want to spend a little bit of time coming to my power word. But for the moment, let's say I decided it was Gadzooks. I'd say subconscious mind, retrain, positive, overcome fear, no more discomfort, no more gut discomfort. Gadzooks! Kind of a dumb word, isn't it? You're welcome to use it. You can buy it for way cheap. I told you this would be a brief video. It's not all that brief. I'm going to end up. I hope that you come back and share a few laughs with me, a few stories. I hope we'll talk again. Thanks. Bye.